Hey guys, welcome back to another Daredevil TV journal. I just watched, and this episode and this video will be filled with spoilers for Daredevil, the Netflix series, episode 4, In the Blood, which I guess is, of course, another biblical reference. They're big on that with Daredevil. This episode is, again, Daredevil continues just to get stronger, and I'm liking it more and more as we go. And I am so happy about that after the disappointment of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I wanted to see Marvel really step up their game in the realm of television, even if it's strictly on Netflix, and they definitely have. Daredevil is awesome. I'm so happy to see this character finally come back after just getting that one poorly received movie with Ben Affleck. Because I really like the idea of Daredevil. What really started to set this episode apart, though, and make it even a cut above the rest of the episodes, was its treatment of its villains. Our connection that we start to feel with, or at least the understanding of the Russian brothers, Vladimir and I forget the other guy. The guy, dies at the end. I fully expected, because I guess their treatment, the side villains' treatment on Arrow, the DC TV show, I fully expected when we saw the group of the villains, the Russians, the Chinese, and the regular American guy, and then of course Wilson Fisk's forces. I expected to have to get through the Russians, the Chinese, the Americans, and then finally get to Wilson Fisk, and he'd be the actual villain we care about. But their treatment and development of the Russian brothers in this episode really makes me want to spend more time with them, fight them more, understand them better, and not necessarily just have to get through them to get to the big villain. Which, I love that. If they can make us really invested in taking down the Chinese and the American guy, then this will be just one heck of a series, and I can't wait to see it. We got the reporter subplot going on with, what's her name? No, not Claire, but the blonde girl that Daredevil has saved back in episode 1. How she is trying to take down this corrupt corporation that is ultimately associated with Wilson Fisk. I know she's going through that old newspaper reporter guy to do it, and they're just sort of back and forth of, you got to be super careful because we're normal people with no superpowers and no financial or political backing to keep us safe. Being super careful and also taking risks trying to help people. And I love that back and forth, and I kind of love that it doesn't particularly have anything to do with Daredevil. That was, again, one of the... I keep going back to Arrow, but it's just such a close comparison. And I love Arrow. But all of Arrow's subplots seem to focus around the Green Arrow, or the Hood, or whatever he is called in that particular episode. This reporter subplot, while parallel with Daredevil's story, doesn't really seem to have anything specifically centered around him. And I like that we can have a furthering of the story towards sort of a bigger goal, as opposed to everything centering around Matt Murdock and his character. Even Foggy and their business practice doesn't necessarily center around Daredevil. It's just a part of that world, and I'm very grateful for that, and I like that. I like the layering of the story. I loved how this is the first episode where somebody calls him the devil. When they pulled that guy out of the coma and they ask who did this to you, he just goes, the devil. And I was wondering, when is he going to be called Daredevil? How on earth is he going to get that name? Because I think, as far as I've heard, it's sort of supposed to be because his dad had a devil motif in his boxing days. But, and I'm not really sad that it didn't happen. I just sort of, it just didn't happen. But it's still, the series is still fine with that. They haven't had more flashbacks with the dad. I don't really know where the Daredevil identity is going to come from, but I imagine it's going to be from the villains or the mobsters starting to call him the devil, because he's kind of scary. And let's face it, devils are a little bit more scary than bats inherently. It's got a very strong Batman sort of parallel, that same vein of hero. I think this is the first episode. She said, Claire, his doctor medic person, mentioned something about body armor, which again, I'm wondering when is he eventually going to get that full costume on? Because I love the costume he's got now. It feels like he just sort of threw something together. But I'm wondering at what point is he going to start moving towards better equipment, a more iconic identity, and that name, Daredevil, because it's obviously the title of the TV show. So it's got to be in there somewhere. Okay, now we got to talk about Wilson Fisk, the villain. As far as I know, he's supposed to be the Kingpin, but I don't really know anything about the Kingpin. I'm not a big comic book reader. But this guy is a very weird villain. The first thing we associate him with is his vulnerable side. He's trying to ask out this girl, and he kind of sucks at it, and it's like you can immediately sympathize with him. He's just trying to get a date, and he's just sort of so awkward and like seems so sensitive. And then, of course, at the end of the episode, when he kills the guy just for interrupting his date, you see his character is very much driven by emotion. Or at least so far. Wilson Fisk, the King, I'm just going to call him Kingpin. Kingpin is very much driven by emotion. He's a creature of emotion. And I think he killed that guy spontaneously. I don't think he was planning that. So he's either super resourceful in turning just his blind rage almost into an opportunity, I think, because, you know, obviously he's got some plan going on, or if he all along had planned to kill one of the Russian brothers, which maybe, I mean, I don't know which one it is, but we'll see. But either way, he is a very emotional character. He's he's not cold and calculating, he's filled with passion and rage, and that's gonna, I can't wait to see more of what he does and who he is. Now the big scene with Claire's kidnapping, that was awesome. I love the action scenes in this show. How he cuts the lights, because of course that's the one thing that doesn't affect his senses at all. He can fight as well in the dark as in bright daylight, but his enemies can't. That moment when the lights go out and you just hear Claire start to laugh because she knows what's coming, that sells me more on Daredevil's awesomeness than any number of actual fighting, is people's reaction to it. She knows that she's saved at that point, and these guys are going to get their butts beat. And they know, because they've heard stories of the Man in the Mask, that to be afraid. His, the feeling that he instills in people is a big, that's what convinces me, and that's what furthers the story in Daredevil being awesome, as opposed to just sort of what he does. It's what people believe about him that makes him ultimately really dangerous and really cool. And this episode, on all accounts, was just another great episode. I cannot wait to see more. Thank you guys for joining me for this TV journal, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.